No, I know there was a rumor that I offered to resign. I did not. I'm still the police chief today.
For everything that we have seen this year, it is clear to me that there is more work that needs to be done, and I am committed to doing that work.
The mayor and police chief today standing together and firm against calls for them to resign. This in the wake of Daniel Prude's death while being restrained by Rochester police. Their comments follow 4 nights of protests, which at times have turned violent. The police chief today saying they have proof that outside agitators are behind some of this. Tonight, a new approach. Elders in Rochester churches are being asked to stand as a buffer between police and protesters.
So the mayor and I have agreed to make sure that those who are protesting in the city are safe, that they get to have the space to grieve, that they will not be converged upon, and that we can have protests and be able to give people the space to make the demands and to do their civic duty.
Together, the mayor and police chief vowed to do better. They're promising to double the number of mental health workers working with police. The chief says they will work with the city's Racial Equities Commission to reimagine policing. And the mayor says protocols have changed, now requiring she be notified and briefed immediately following a death in police custody. With this new approach to policing, a vow to do better. Good evening, I'm Dan Schrack. We do have team coverage tonight with Jane Chaco and Michael Schwartz standing by. But we begin with 13 WHAM's Ginny Ryan, who was at the news conference with the mayor and police chief today. Ginny?
A couple of big differences today, Dan. The mayor striking a more conciliatory tone after publicly blaming the police chief for not informing her about all the details of Daniel Prude's death. Today, they stood together in what appeared to be a unified front. Outside City Hall, work was being done to repair the damage done by protesters. Inside City Hall, a different kind of damage control.
Their message that we must do better and that we have to address how we police our city has been heard. These calls are not new, and the chief and I have worked diligently to do the necessary work. It is my solemn duty as the mayor of this city to honor Mr. Prude, to not let his death be in vain.
Daniel Prude, naked and in handcuffs on a cold street in March, died a week after being restrained by police. An autopsy ruled his death a homicide by asphyxiation, also citing the drug PCP in his system. Prude's family says he needed mental health help and didn't get it. The mayor and police chief today vowing to double the number of mental health workers for cases like this.
Moving forward, we are dedicated to taking the necessary actions to prevent this from ever happening again. And I understand that there are certain calls that law enforcement shouldn't handle alone, and we are looking at ways to reimagine policing surrounding mental health.
Protesters have called for the resignations of both the police chief and mayor, faulting them for not being more transparent about Prude's death. It wasn't made public until family members held a news conference September 2nd. The mayor said she wasn't made aware of the details of Prude's death until August 4th. She said she never received Prude's autopsy report in April. The chief was asked if he informed the mayor about it.
I'm not going to get into conversation with regard to what me and the mayor talked about with regard to that. I'm not going to publicly disclose conversations between me and the mayor.
You will get all that information during that investigation and during that review, and you will all see that this was done by the book.
And there are still a lot of questions that need to be answered in this case. Questions about the conduct of those police officers on that cold March night and how the case was subsequently handled by city leaders. The state attorney general is investigating the officers. City council members are seeking their own answers about how this administration handled Daniel Prude's death.
All right, Jenny Ryan reporting. Tonight, the organization leading the charge in the street says city officials are lying. A short time ago, Free the People Rock again called for the mayor and police chief to step down. 13 WHAM's Jane Chaco picks up our coverage with their response. Jane?
Right, Dan. They also responded to the idea that the mayor supported today, putting elders as a buffer between police and protesters. And while Free the People Rock supports the idea and the sentiment, they do not approve of using church leaders as a human shield between protesters and police. Organizers say the mayor should instead pull back police and change tactics, not using tear gas and pepper bullets to disperse crowds. At tonight's protest, Free the People Rock says they will continue to demand the same things: justice for Daniel Prude, defund the police, and to have a peaceful protest. They add elders have been marching with them this entire week, but they do have concerns that the elders tonight will be in danger.
Our elders should not have to put their bodies on the line to be a buffer when we have a mayor and a police chief who should be over the police officers, calling them down, and they are not doing it.
The protest starts in about half an hour at Jefferson Avenue. We'll be following what happens there. For now, in Rochester, Jane Chaco, 13 WHAM News.
And former Rochester mayor and president and CEO of the Chamber of Commerce, Bob Duffy, also weighing in tonight. He's calling out what he says is a lack of transparency surrounding the death of Daniel Prude. Duffy says the fact his death was not communicated to the community for 5 months shows significant failure of leadership, adding police community relations are not about buildings or town halls. Positive relationships are built through mutual respect and trust, adding the time for excuses and band-aids is over. Tonight, another demonstration is planned. The city working with Spiritus Christi Church, bringing church elders to stand between police and protesters. Both the mayor and police chief are hoping this helps repair the rift in the community.
I have spoken with Chief Singletary, and we have discussed at length how our police department has responded to the protesters.
Night after night, demonstrators continue their calls for justice following the death of Daniel Prude. Their cries met with pepper balls and tear gas. Chief Singletary blaming outside agitators from as far away as Alaska.
There have been frozen water bottles that have been thrown at police officers. There have been other type of debris, glass bottles, rocks that have been thrown at police officers.
Since Wednesday, at least 37 demonstrators have been arrested, many charged with rioting. Several police officers and protesters injured during the events.
We have shown restraint. I know that there's people who may have a difference of opinion.
Chief Singletary saying the tactics RPD has used are on par with other police agencies across the country, but is working with the city to reimagine those policies.
No one of us can do anything alone. It takes people reaching across, working together to ensure that we have a brighter future.
And the Monroe County Black and Asian Democratic Caucus asking that law enforcement stand down tonight and allow for peaceful protests. The caucus says the use of pepper balls, dogs, flashbangs, tear gas, and other tactics is by no means acceptable. And earlier today, another demonstration calling for unity following days of unrest in Rochester. 13 WHAM's Michael Schwartz was at a gathering this morning honoring Daniel Prude. Michael?
Yeah, that's right, Dan. Affiliated churches joined Victory Living on J Street for the ceremony this afternoon as more than 100 people were out there today. They listened to local bishops talk and other speakers preach about hate going around the world and right here in Rochester. At the end of everyone there got down flat on their stomachs, resembling Daniel Prude on that snowy March 23rd morning. Many weeping as Bishop Gregory Wells told the crowd it may be uncomfortable, but so was Prude. He said justice for Prude must be done by using any anger to channel positive changes, unity, not division.
We can't bring any resolution to the problems we're facing by damaging buildings or hurting other people or bringing weapons to peaceful protests. It's a time for us to listen to each other, embrace each other's differences.
Actually, Wells' 91-year-old father lying on that same pavement. Dan?
All right, Michael Schwartz, thank you for that. We will have continuing coverage on new developments throughout the night right here on 13 Wham, as well as Fox Rochester. And for the news anytime, right in the palm of your hand, download the 13 Wham app or head over to 13wham.com.